Greetings mortals, and welcome to Blackcula's October TBR. What's up cuties? Today I am filming a very special video, a very special way of ushering in the best season of the year. And that video is none other than my October TBR. I am really very deeply excited about everything that's going on in the bookish community this month in October. And so in this video I'm going to be giving you the nitty and the gritty on my reading plans, as well as some exciting things that are happening on this channel in October. So this month I will be participating in 2 readathons. They will be Blackoweenathon as well as Vampathon. This will be my first time participating in either readathon, and I'm very deeply excited. These readathons are both hosted by some incredibly awesome people, and the prompts that they have come up with are so creative, and I'm very excited about the books I will be reading to satisfy those prompts. What do we think of the camera and picture quality? This is the first TBR that I will ever have filmed on my professional camera. I recently upgraded to a Canon G7X Mark II, whereas before I filmed all of my videos on my old iPhone, and it's really exciting to have a nice professional camera now. The structure of today's video is going to be me talking about the miscellaneous books that I will be reading, as well as the 2 book clubs that I will be participating in, and then sinking my teeth into my Blackoweenathon TBR and ending with what I'm reading for Vampathon. Let us get started by discussing what Blackcula will be reading in October, and that is none other than Dracula. I'm going to be filming a video titled Blackcula Reading Dracula for the first time, and it is going to be the character of Blackcula reacting to this classic. I recently picked up this gorgeous special edition from Pango, which is where I get all of my used books. You can get $5 off your first Pango order using the code bowties. It's at the bottom of the description box. I just cannot believe that I got this book and it is in perfect condition. I literally cannot believe how cheap this book was, and I'm so excited to be diving into this gothic classic that helped make vampires exactly what they are today. I can't remember if this is the first ever vampire story. Somebody let me know in the comment section down below. But my god, I am so deeply geeked. I will also be reading another dark, spooky classic, and this is The Picture of Dorian Gray. Blackcula is all about immortality, and I cannot wait to reread one of my favorite classics of all time that is about Dorian Gray, a very vain young man who has his soul painted into a portrait. The portrait will age on his behalf, and he will survive so long as he never looks upon its face. And then we have my most anticipated SFF book of the entire year, and that is Neon Yang's The Genesis of Misery. I am so excited. Misery Namaki, who uses she/they pronouns, was raised on a remote moon colony where they do not believe in any god. And Misery knows that the angel that this young person is seeing is a delusion that has been brought on by hereditary space exposure. It sounds utterly incredible. Neon Yang's mind is a work of art in and of itself, and I simply cannot wait to dive into this book. Now is a fantastic time to talk about what NB Book Club will be reading this month in October. And that, my friends, is none other than Just Like Home by Sarah Gailey. This is a book where the daughter of an infamed serial killer returns to her childhood home. And this is also the book that the book troupe will be reading. Now our co-hosts are going to be Gabby, who hosts the Book Troupe Book Club, and Noria of Chronicles of Noria. So deeply excited to have both of these incredible creators co-hosting NB Book Club this month. And if you're not familiar, NB Book Club is my non-binary book club. We vote on all the picks over on the NB Book Club Instagram, and also do lots of like NB lifestyle things and reels and just really fun stuff. And then every month we have a live show where we discuss our book club pick, and I am so excited. I love Sarah Gailey. I read The Echo Wife and really enjoyed it. It is a polarizing book, so I'm very excited to see about Just Like Home because I do love the serial killer trope. I have an entire section on my thriller bookshelf devoted to serial killers, and there's no way I couldn't read a serial killer narrative in October. Finally, what my Patreon book club is going to be reading is Babel by R.F. Kuang. I was lucky enough to snag the Illumicrate special edition of this book, and it is utterly beautiful. It comes with this gorgeous little book sleeve. and the actual hardcover is nothing short of a work of art. Babel is a highly anticipated fantasy where we are set at a linguistics academy and we're following a various cast of characters. Now, I actually do not know anything more about the book than that, because I don't need to. R.F. Kuang is an auto-buy author. For me, I will do absolutely anything to support her work. And then the last book that I'm going to be reading that won't count for Blackoweenathon or Vampathon is my arc of The Heart of the Sun Warrior by Su Lin Tan. This is, of course, the long-anticipated sequel of The Daughter of the Moon Goddess, which took the book community by storm last year. We are following in this series the daughter of the Moon Goddess, who has been imprisoned in a celestial keep in the sky, and this daughter sets out to get accepted into the palace and become a fantastic warrior in order to curry the favor of the immortal who punished her mother and get him to free her. And immortality is a big component of the book, as well as magic that is based in not only celestial magics but also the elements, another trope that I utterly adore. And we get some freaking dragons, as well as a love triangle that you're actually going to be invested in. I simply cannot wait to see what Xingyan does in this book, because she made herself one of my favorite protagonists of all time in the first. Blackoweenathon, Blackoweenathon, Blackoweenathon. For the locked bookticians Blackoweenathon, I'm going to be doing all of the prompts except for one. I will not be completing the prompt of reading a book in the 20th century because I don't have anything on my shelves for that, and I'm trying to read all of the black thriller and horror books on my shelves before reaching for other books that I've been interested in. One of the prompts is to read a backlist book, a book that has been on your backlist for 10 years or more. And I don't have any black thriller or horror books that have been on my backlist for 10 years, so I decided to go with the book that has been on my shelf the longest, the book that I have been highly anticipating, wanting to get to for the longest amount of time, and that is Allegedly by Tiffany D. Jackson. I think this has been on my TBR for about 4 years, which I think is a really good amount of time. Stretching this prompt, you're gonna have to give Blackcula some wiggle room, darling. Allegedly is the story of Mary, who was jailed for 6 years after a white baby died in her care, and she has refused to say whether she did the crime or not. And we are following her years later after she gets out and is in a group home, and she is pregnant, and the state steps in and attempts to take her baby. Allegedly has been described as a brutal horror book and one that is utterly haunting. I love Tiffany D. Jackson. She is absolutely one of my favorite authors of all time, and potentially my favorite horror author, and I cannot wait to get into the book that put her on the map. Then we have a book with queer representation, for which I selected How to Succeed in Witchcraft by Ashlyn Brophy. I am so excited to read this debut magical witchy story from a non-binary author of color, and this has been one of my most highly anticipated books, and I'm far from the only one. So in this book, we are following a cast of theater kids who are putting on a play, and the academy that they attend is a magical school, and that is a trope I love. There is a hate to love relationship in here. It is sapphic, and also there is drama within this story surrounding the teacher of the play, the director of the play, being inappropriate with the females in his cast. It is a very sensitive topic, and so I'm very excited to see how all of these elements play out. There's a lot to balance here, and it sounds beautiful and strong and powerful, and I just can't wait for it. Now for the prompt of a book set in the South, I actually picked 3 because Blackcula don't play. The first one that I'm going to be spotlighting is When the Reckoning Comes by Latanya McQueen. Y'all know that this has been on so many of my TBRs, and this is going to be the month that I read it, or I have to unhaul it, because dear God, I have been putting this book off. And this is a story surrounding our main character who escaped her southern town, and she has to come back for a wedding that is set on a plantation, and the plantation wedding has slavery themed drinks and everything is weird and shit goes down. I'm not gonna lie, I absolutely love that kind of racialized horror. It's one of my favorite types of horror and I just can't wait. I also do love a claustrophobic setting. I love the trope of returning home, so this book is going to check all of my boxes. It just depends on the writing. I also will be reading the 2 books in the A Raven Burns Tale series, and I cannot wait. I was sent these books earlier in the year and they sound like something that is either going to be a new favorite or something that I absolutely hate. And so these are the most polarizing books that I have on this list. This series is about a homicide detective who feels that she has finally escaped the legacy of being the daughter of a serial killer. But when she accidentally shoots and kills someone on duty, the community turns against her, and this witch hunt has been led by a very prominent, wealthy socialite whose name is Hazel Westcott, and they're accusing her of being just like her father. And I'm very excited to see how a lot of these sensitive topics are handled, as well as the depiction of a black serial killer. And reading a black thriller book that has black serial killers in it, I am very excited. I'm a little bit nervous, but we will see how it all goes. Then we have the prompt of reading a book by an underrated author, and since all of the thriller horror books on my physical TBR are by authors that I haven't read yet or are quite large, I decided to go with a book by an author that isn't talked about and a book that isn't talked about itself, and that is none other than The Three Mrs. Greys by Shelley Ellis. Now this book released last year and it had fanfare, a little bit of fanfare on Bookstagram, but absolutely none that I saw on Booktube, and I have been meaning to read it for a while. Y'all know that domestic thrillers are far from my favorite. They're just too commercial, they're often dry, very predictable, nothing heart-racing or interesting about them. But this is a domestic thriller that I do have high hopes for. It is about this man who is with 3 women, and of course they have no idea. And they don't find out about each other until he is shot nearly to death and lies in the hospital. And our protagonist, who seems a little bit unhinged if you ask me, is determined to be the only Mrs. Grey. And finally, we have one of my most anticipated releases, and that is Jackal. And this will fit the prompt of reading a debut author. Not a debut author, a recent release. Now, this book recently released. It came out on October 4th, 2022. So by the time this video goes up, the book will be released. I'm filming this on October 2nd. My fangs don't come in the mail until October 3rd. So in my later Blackcula videos, I will be wearing my
beautiful fangs and speaking in my Blackcula voice.
This is a soft Blackcula launch. I love this costume. It is so comfortable. I was worried that it wouldn't be, but I could happily wear this all day, and I utterly intend to do so. What Jackal is about is a bunch of black girls going missing in their Rust Belt white town and turning up murdered in the most gruesome of ways, and we are following a young black girl who gets wrapped up in this mystery and is being hunted herself. And this is a horror book that is supposed to be brutal with brilliant social commentary and excellent writing, and what more could I possibly ask for Blackoweenathon? Wow, I have so many books on this TBR, as well as books that I'm carrying over from last month, but I'm not going to talk about any of those books. I didn't even film a TBR for last month, so I'm really excited for this October wrap up already. I can't wait to see what I think of these reads. Now let us talk about what I will be reading for Vampathon, my very first time participating. Now I am going to be completing a lot of the challenges on the Vampathon bingo board. The board has 16 prompts, and the books that I'm reading will cover, I think, like 12 of them. In order to satisfy the prompts of reading a gothic cover, a paranormal book, a book you can sink your teeth into, a horror book, a vampire book that was made into a movie adaptation, a book with a gothic setting, and a supernatural main character, I will be reading Anne Rice's Interview with a Vampire series, which I got in this gorgeous bind up, of course, on Pango books. Honestly, 9 times out of 10 when I buy books, I buy them from Pango. And again, it's like, it's supposed to be a used app, but so many people just put their brand new books up. And I got this gorgeous bind up just before Anne Rice died. Really excited to be reading this book, especially in honor of Anne Rice, because she just passed and she was such a formidable part of my childhood. Those of you who've been following me for a while know that my Belgian Shepherd is named Akasha, and Akasha is the queen of all vampires, which was created by Anne Rice. And so I will be filming an exclusive video as Blackcula reading the Vampire Chronicles for the first time. I have read one book in the Chronicles, but not the entire series, and I read that book when I was like 12 years old, so I remember utterly nothing about it. Now, to satisfy the prompt of reading a spooky manga or graphic novel, I am going to be reading all of Junji Ito's books. I read Uzumaki last year for the very first time. I read it for my Spending a Week as Chloe from Books with Chloe experiment video, which will be down below if you're interested in it. And I loved it. I loved Uzumaki. I wasn't expecting. And in this month, you're going to see a video from me reading every single one of his works and reviewing and ranking them. So I'm very, very excited. I'm trying to figure out a costume for that video. So if you have ideas, comment down below. I was thinking of painting my faces with spirals. I'm just really excited about it. But if you have other ideas, let me know in the comment section down below. Now, to satisfy the prompt of reading a book with blood magic, I'm going to be reading a series that I think y'all are going to geek out over, and that is none other than Legendborn as well as Bloodmarked, which comes out in November. I cannot wait. I am so excited to be rereading Legendborn and doing Bloodmarked, and of course you are going to see reviews for Bloodmarked. Let me know if you want a dedicated review for Bloodmarked, or if you want like a reading vlog of both books. Of course, these are going to be part of my Black Girl Magic series, where I critically read and analyze and review the way that Black girls are depicted in science fiction and fantasy. And I'm so excited that I have the second book in the Legendborn cycle. I can't wait to continue on with this series. This is about a grieving girl named Bree who gets accepted into this academy just after her mother dies. And she also finds herself accepted into an elite ancient secret society of mages. Then for the prompt of reading a book set in school, I will be reading How to Succeed in Witchcraft. So this counts both for Blackoweenathon and for Vampathon. And the final prompt, which is to read a thriller horror book, I will be reading Nightcrawling, which is a debut thriller by Layla Motley. And in this book, we are following a young Black woman who is just an absolute mess. She's going through a lot, and she witnesses this man be run over by a car and gets into night crawling while also being hunted for her role in the situation. And I am so excited. I've heard very mixed things about this book. I'm not sure why the fuck it has deckled edges. People seem to have very mixed feelings on what genre to put this in. Sometimes people say that it's not a thriller. Some people say that it is. I hear that it's adult. I hear that it's young adult. So I'm really excited to read this book and get into like my own opinions and thoughts about it. So I'm really excited. So you're definitely going to see a lot of Blackcula content from me. Reading sprints, Blackcula reading Dracula for the first time, Blackcula reading the Vampire Chronicles. I really want to do a Blackcula giving Black thriller horror book recommendations video. Now let me know what vlogs you are the most interested in seeing. Do you want a Blackoweenathon vlog? Do you want a Blackoweenathon and or Vampathon vlog? Do you want a dedicated vlog for the Legendborn cycle? I of course can't make content for absolutely everything, so y'all commenting and telling me what to prioritize will help me decide. And I do have a poll up on my Patreon where patrons are also going to be voting on some stuff. So if you are curious about the Patreon at all, we do fun stuff over there. Check it out in the description box. This month, of course, we are reading Babel. We're going to be watching Scooby-Doo together. We're going to be having a live show. Bree of Book Blocktician, who of course is the genius behind Blackoweenathon, will be our reading sprint guest host, and they will be getting an exclusive video where I talk about books that I want to reread. My social media links are in the description box below if you would like to catch me anywhere else. Until we meet again.